The Chicago Bulls were voted nearly the worst offseason by ESPN poll. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, Stacey King believes that Lonzo Ball could start if healthy. Me and Pat are going to break all this down and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze, and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central, Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Pat, with that said, ESPN did an anonymous poll that reportedly 18 NBA members were a part of, and the Bulls were voted nearly having the worst offseason in the NBA this past offseason. The only team with more votes than them were the Denver Nuggets with 6 votes. The Chicago Bulls right behind them with 5 votes. How you feeling about this, Pat?
I mean, listen, it's the worst offseason is tough because I think that they improved on a lot of different positions.
Yeah.
But how much better did you get? I think the point guard position you got better at. You didn't get woefully better at center. You didn't get woefully better at your forward position by going out and getting Chris Duarte. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say I disagree with ESPN on this, and no, not for all the people who are in the comments like, well, ESPN pays Pat, so that's why he doesn't disagree. Shut up. No, if I disagreed, I'd have no problem saying it, but you got better at the point guard position, and really there's some questions on if you feel like you got better at the point guard position because Kobe White did a solid job being your point guard last year. Now, as far as somebody who brings facilitating, as far as somebody who's going to get guys open, I think that Josh Giddey is an improvement on that. But outside of that, what else did the Bulls improve upon? In fact, I would say they got worse in most of the areas.
Yeah, I think the Bulls, when you look at, they picked a direction, right? They did get a point guard in Josh Giddey. I think people really just look at the fact that the Bulls, to me, this type of voting is more so that the Bulls should have done this at the trade deadline. I think that's the common thought, is that if you were going to go younger, you should have did the trade deadline. You could have got more. And I think they're judging it through the view of what the Bulls could have gotten had they made this decision sooner, rather than look at it in the fact of the trade deadline passed. There's nothing you could do to go back and undo that. It came and went. It did what it did. You made this decision at the end of the season. And I honestly think you did pretty solidly at it. Like, you got Josh Giddey back, who has tremendous upside as a playmaker. And also, I've been doing some deeper dive into some things. Josh Giddey isn't nearly as bad defensively what some people make him out to be at all. He's actually one of the better positional defenders at his position, period. Do you know that Josh Giddey has the same block rate as some centers in the league?
Yeah, but that's let's be real. Like, it's also the eye test that you have to put with that. The numbers will say that.
Definitely.
The numbers will say that. But Josh Giddey get coached quite a bit.
But the thing is that, yeah, off ball is a lot of what on ball he's pretty good. But with that said, he's not nearly as bad as what some people have made him out to be with this trade because of how his season ended with the OKC Thunder. You go out and get Jalen Smith as well, who as a player coming off the bench as a big who still has some upside. You get Modest Bucilis at number 11 when he was slated to go, projected to go in the top 5. Like, to me, the Bulls didn't have a terrible offseason. They just didn't. But
I don't think it's about them having a terrible offseason. But I think you do have to go position by position with this, right? So point guard position, we feel they got better. Josh Giddey's a better point guard than what we have. Absolutely. Did they get better at center by swapping out Andre Drummond for Jalen Smith?
That remains to be. Offensively, probably. Defensively, not.
Maybe. You know what I mean? Maybe. Like, what are we expecting Jalen Smith to get? 8 to 10? We know.
I mean, that's the thing. Well, that's the thing. Their points production is about the same, but how he gets his points. He's also a 41% shooter from 3 for a team that needs 3-point shooting.
That is true.
And he averages more blocks. So,
but I mean, like, I don't know. Like I get why this poll was put out there. I get why they would say that the Bulls were on the lower end of that because like I feel like we're splitting hairs if Jalen Smith is better offensively than Andre Drummond is. I feel like we're splitting hairs if like Modest Bucilis, who, listen, I'm excited that he can dunk the basketball too, but he's not a great shooter. We saw that in sure. G League. We saw that in Summer League. Like, don't think that it's just going to magically happen that Modest Bucilis is going to come out and all of a sudden he's going to be a 40+% 3-point shooter by the time the season starts, right? So I understand why they take this stance on this because realistically, you got rid of DeMar DeRozan, Andre Drummond. You bring back Torrey Craig, I guess. So that's kind of a lateral move, but
the worst. It's not saying did you get worse than what, but yeah, the Bulls took a step back. But to say that they had the worst offseason for a team that won 39 games, to me, that's where the distinction comes into. Because you look at it, the Clippers lost way more talent than what the Bulls lost.
They just for sure. I mean, just by losing one player, they lost that.
Yeah. You look at the Denver Nuggets, they had the most votes at 6, but I think that's another cumulative vote. I think they look at you lost KCP and Bruce Brown in subsequent years, and that's how you get in those votes. Because they still got Russ, which isn't great, but isn't terrible either. But like,
yeah.
And then the Clippers had 4, the Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks and Pistons had 1 vote each. I don't understand how the Knicks got a single vote on there for the worst offseason.
Yeah, I don't even view the Knicks offseason as a loss at all.
Yeah, they lost Isaiah Hardenstein, who's a really good player.
That was beef. That's 90s beef right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
But no, I mean, listen, I understand why somebody would feel that way about the Chicago Bulls right now because, like, as you start to look around, as you start to say, okay, what did you add to make your team better? What did they add to make the team better? It's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of stuff that is yet to be seen. I believe, now these are the things I believe. I believe Jalen Smith is a good basketball player. I think if you give him starters minutes like we saw in his limited time in Indiana, he will play better. I believe that Josh Giddey is a good basketball player, that if you allow him to be the point guard on the team, that he will play better. But a lot of these players are coming off of situations where some coach or somebody in the organization made the decision to say, you're not good enough to get the minutes that we believe that Bulls fans right now are believing you should get. And a lot of times we showed the optimism. We look at, right, we looked at Javon Carter as ever the optimist, and it has bit us in the butt ever since. And now, it's like, well, maybe somebody who told him he probably shouldn't play in the playoffs was right. And I think that's where it's like I can see why ESPN's poll or whoever did this, whoever voted on this, would pick the Bulls as having the worst offseason because not only did you not make moves, but like the places where as we as fans and we as breaking this down, looking at specific numbers, say you got better, a lot of times they don't show that on the court. And so I understand the question mark around it.
Yeah, I definitely understand the question. Like that's not no mistake made. More so on the perception. I just don't think the Bulls have done as bad as what some people have made it out to be. Is my thing. I think they've added some talent in some key places. You've gotten some really good guys, and you've put the direction for your squad where you didn't really have a direction. And that's still with Zach LaVine and Vooch still on the roster. And you clearly have gone in a different direction. So,
but I think even how we have viewed it, right? Me and you have both said this, that listen, they should have done better, but you didn't do worse.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's kind of like, well, you screwed up, but you kind of got it back on track. You didn't do enough to get fired today. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we have talked about the moves this offseason. I think the Josh Giddey move's a great move. But realistically speaking, if you're telling me I can get 2 first-round picks for Alex Caruso back in whatever it is, I want that. Right? Like, all of those moves that we have seen is kind of like.
Yeah, hearing that. But if you get 2 first-round picks, let's say you get to, like Josh Giddey, especially because we heard that none of those picks were in the 2025 draft.
Yeah.
He's definitely better than anybody you would have got late in this draft. Josh Giddey's definitely better than anybody you would have got late in this draft.
Man, listen, give me Terrence Shannon Jr. Y'all know my feelings on that.
I mean, listen.
Terrence Shannon Jr. might be better than Josh Giddey. I ain't gonna lie.
As a scorer, yeah, but we got to see. Listen, and don't get me wrong. I get that. But also, Terrence Shannon Jr. is coming in. He's coming into the league 3 years older than Josh Giddey, too, which is weird.
That is true. It's a very different situation. It's a very different position for you to be in. So I understand that. But if you told me, hey, would you rather have Josh Giddey or Terrence Shannon Jr.? Give me TSJ. I'm just saying. That's me personally.
I mean, and then when he turns out to be Denzel Valentine, then what?
Well, no, let's not.
No, you know, I'm a TSJ guy. You know, I'm a TSJ guy. I'm just
no TSJ disrespect accepted on here. I will let you cook Kofi Coburn, whose name has an unexplicable CK in it that nobody wants to pronounce.
Let me cook Kofi Coburn. Kofi Coburn deserves to get cooked, bro. Like,
where is Kofi right now?
I think he's playing in Istanbul or something like that.
Forget Kofi. I don't care where Kofi's at. Where's Kai Soto? Where you at?
Listen, he needs to be where Kofi is too.
We got called all kind of racial slurs for Kai Soto.
Hey, bro, that was an interesting day.
Bro,
but next up, man, we're gonna be talking
names for Kai Soto.
Like, yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Bulls' preseason schedule. It was released today, but before we get into that, I got to talk to you guys about a message from Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You know what Gametime has? They have panoramic view from your seats in the app before you even buy your tickets. And if you find tickets for the same price or less in the same section, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Plus, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Zion Williams.
You missed it.
I did. That's on me.
All right, Pat. With that said, man, the Chicago Bulls preseason schedule has been officially released. We got 5 games on the preseason schedule this year. Those games are October 8th, the Cleveland Cavaliers. October 12th, the Memphis Grizzlies at home. We go on the road to face the Milwaukee Bucks on the 14th of October. And then the 16th, we play against the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's at home. And then we finish at home against the Cleveland Cavaliers on the 18th.
You know what's exciting about this is, like, I'm getting ready here to do preseason football tomorrow with the Bears taking on the Houston Texans, and you know, like, it's a very different environment in the NFL. Everybody's excited. Nobody can wait for this. I feel like no one's ever really, like, diehard excited for preseason basketball, and they play a lot. Like, they play a good chunk of the game. So I'm actually excited to see, because I love hearing when the Bulls slate is very much a competitive slate. I love hearing when it's, you know, you're playing the Bucks, you're playing the Timberwolves. Because you know what you're going to see in those games? You're going to see more times than not, unless somebody's dealing with something, some injury. Like, I guess when that comes in, you kind of take it out of there. But you're going to see Anthony Edwards. You're going to see Rudy Gobert. You're going to see Karl Anthony Towns. You're going, like, these mugs end up playing. What was it last year? Like, in the preseason, there were guys playing in, like, the third quarter. Yeah. And we were sitting there just like, bro, like, what the heck is this? Like, this feels wrong. So, like, I like the fact that the Bulls have a competitive preseason. Now, I'm not sitting here saying the guys are playing their hardest in the preseason, but I think that it's good, especially with a young team, especially with a team where you're going to want to see Modest Bucilis, especially with a team where you're going to want to see what Kobe White can do opposite Josh Giddey and work some things in. It's good to know that there's going to be some competitiveness at certain positions out there.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. I think, you know, for the first time really coming into this, Billy Donovan is also going to be trying to figure out rotations, right? We haven't had to do that for a while because our rotations have basically been the same for the most part for the last few years, outside of, you know, the point guard, who's going to start the point guard the last couple of years, which, you know, that ended up being won by Io and then Kobe the following year. But then also there's just excitement overall with this team. Like the bench unit could be a lot of fun. You got Io, Modest Bucilis, Jalen Smith coming off that bench. It could be really fun. They're going to play a lot of minutes. So it is going to be interesting getting the Zach LaVine story aspect. There's a lot of storylines as well coming into this. Like as much change as the Bulls have had, is Josh Giddey going to look, how is he going to build off his international play over in the Olympics? Is he going to do something like Larry did the year he joined the Jazz, right? All those type of storylines coming into it. Preseason is going to be a fun one to watch, I think, for a lot of reasons. Then the teams that we have on the
Olympics or the Army?
Huh?
Was Larry off the Olympics or the Army?
No, he was off the Army last offseason.
Okay.
Yeah, the first season with the Jazz, he was coming off a FIBA run, I think is what it was.
That was wild. Larry Marketing came back jacked.
So yeah, I mean, then when you look at the storylines, the Cleveland Cavaliers, we already like they just locked in Jared Allen. Their whole core is locked in into like to 2030. The return of John Morant for the Memphis Grizzlies, right?
Yeah.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Man, Dame time.
Terrence Shannon Jr. with the Minnesota Timberwolves. There goes that one. Modest versus TSJ. A little bit on that one.
Listen, yes, and I'm very
excited. If Bucilis cooks Terrence Shannon Jr., how would your reaction be?
I mean, if they're guarding each other, somebody effed up.
Not really. I think they're both going to be playing the three.
No, TSJ's coming off of the benches. They bench two probably.
He's going to be playing some three.
Who's off of their bench? No, because they got what's old boy that's the tweener? He's the 3-4. Why can't I think of his name? Oh no, that's the Timberwolves. Oh yeah, because they don't have Kyle Anderson no more. Maybe he will play the three. Maybe
he's gonna play some three. They got Rob Dillingham. He's gonna play the one. They got Alexander Walker, who's a 1-2. He's probably gonna be off the bench. And then of course they got Joe Ingles there, but you know, it is what it is. Joe Ingles is Joe
Come
Ingles.
on now. Joe Ingles playing that three, dog. Joe, you know what Joe Ingles gonna get down on.
Bro, Joe Ingles just be playing, bro.
But he be hooping, bro. We not disrespecting Joe.
No,
either.
Joe Ingles hoops against us. That he cooked us that game last year, bro. That was crazy. For a game, Joe Ingles was the best player of the night, bro. That was crazy.
Hey, how old is Joe Ingles? I feel like Joe Ingles is one 36
of the players years old.
You know what? I was about to be wrong then. I was gonna say I feel like Joe Ingles. No, you know what? I'm still right. I feel like Joe Ingles is 46. So, like, I feel like he's a really good rec league player. He be hooping mugs. No, I like this. I'm excited to see kind of what the breakdown of this is going to be. I'm excited to see kind of how Billy Donovan utilizes some of the rotations that are going to be out there. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot to take from this preseason on both fronts.
Do you think any positions are up? Like, are there going to be? Do you expect any position battles at all in training camp for the Bulls in the preseason?
Patrick Williams.
Okay.
If I got Torrey Craig that can play the 4 and who literally came in and played the 4 at a better rate than Patrick Williams did, that means
they were about the same.
I mean, yeah, but Torrey Craig had more of an ability to go down there and grab rebounds, to push the tempo, to make sure that, you know, he's doing what you want to see a 4 do. P. Will is kind of more of the 3-and-D type of guy, even though I have a lot of question on the I got to say this, the defensive part of the 3-and-D.
I was questioning the D? Is that what you were about to say?
It's not what I said. You said that, and that is wild. Yeah, I mean, that's an insane thing to hear you say, my guy. But no, like I think that if you're talking about P. Will trying to fight for that 3-4 spot, where's Modest playing?
I don't think P. Will's not playing the 3. Modest is going to play at the 3. P. Will's a 4. He's going to play the 4. That's what P. Will's going to play. Maybe some 3, but he's playing majorly at the 4.
Well, I would think you're probably going to try and throw some. Listen, we know Billy wants the long arm of justice lineup out there where you got the P. Wills and the Torrey Craigs on the floor at the same time, and I would assume maybe work Modest in there. Maybe Modest small enough, play some 2. He can't shoot though.
That is something to look at. Is that they may play Modest at some 2, maybe. But then again, I look at it and you say you got Io, Kobe, Zach, all who could play the 2. Like it's that's why one of the things I'm most interested in season.
The long arm of justice lineup is Io at the point, Modest at the 2, P. Will at the 3, Torrey at the 4,
But you can play Torrey at the 3. People, I mean, it doesn't matter. People with Torrey at the 3, 4.
Either way. They both the same dude. But I'm really like, that's my focus here. P. Will has to see the writing on the wall for Zach LaVine. There's no way you don't take this season as like, all right, it's my turn.
Listen, we could say there's no way. But this is Patrick Williams we're talking about.
If at this point it becomes that, it's like, bet he's a role player. I want to see 18 minutes out of him, 3-and-D off of the bench. That's like, go get a legit, let Jalen Smith play the 4. I've seen Jalen Smith play the 4. It looks better than Patrick Williams. And he shoots it at a 40% clip from 3.
He shot it at a 40% clip from 3, taking 2 per game. Like, we'll see.
I can only base it off of what I've seen from him. I saw Patrick Williams go out there and shoot at a 40% clip from 3, taking 5? 3 for,
almost
2
4.
For 5, almost 4.
Yeah.
Take 2 more, Jalen Smith, and show me, because I know you'll go out there and block shots, and I know you'll go out there and actually, when people say defend the guy, you'll actually do that.
Well, Patrick Williams actually has a higher block rate than Jalen Smith, and he steals more. I'm just the numbers.
I mean, but one-on-one, I'd rather have Jalen Smith at the 4.
I mean, I can understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I mean,
you just don't like Patrick Williams. The pat-on-pat crime is ridiculous.
I keep hearing about this phenomenal Patrick Williams defense at the 3, and I'm still waiting to see him shut somebody down. It's just me, though.
Oh, man. And just to put it in perspective as well, and this is why I say, like, a lot with Patrick Williams, I think it's the fact that he just goes out there. He's like slow-mo. Like, he's like Eeyore out there. But actually, Patrick Williams' rebounding rate is considerably higher than Torrey Craig's. It's like Patrick Williams does stuff, but he just never looks like he does anything, and it ends up being disappointing. We literally herald people for the same numbers that Patrick Williams get, but because they show more energy, it looks better. And like, I'm saying that it does look better because they show more energy and they don't disappear as often as what Patrick Williams does.
Hold on. His rebounding rate or his rebounds per game, though?
Rebounding rate.
So I mean, listen, if you rebound at a certain rate, that's phenomenal. But how many of those are you coming away with per game? Torrey Craig was still a 6 rebound per game guy last year.
No, Torrey Craig was a 4 rebound, literally 0.1 more than Patrick Williams.
Okay, all right, I'll take it back.
That's what I'm saying. All it's right. Like, and that is the conundrum of Patrick Williams, that when you look at like numbers, it'll be, when you look at numbers versus when you pass the eye test during the game, it's very different because Patrick Williams just looks so ho-hum out there, whereas Torrey Craig, you know, he's giving energy out there. Nobody's going to watch Torrey Craig and think he's not giving energy.
Yeah.
That's a big portion of that. So and that's where it's like, imagine if Patrick Williams actually gave the energy that it looked like everybody else getting. It's like, just
okay,
do
I
it.
knew I wasn't tweaking. Torrey Craig's, this is career. Never mind. That's why.
Yeah, I was supposed to. Torrey Craig averaged 4.1. Patrick Williams averaged 3.9 last season.
I'm trying to see his starter stats, though, because I think as a starter, Torrey Craig did average more. Like, the average is going to go, it is 4.1. Okay. His career was 5.7.
That makes sense.
All right. I mean, look, I don't know.
Patrick Williams is truly a conundrum.
Torrey Craig, I was talking about Jalen Smith at first. I was like, play Jalen Smith at the 4, but either way, the guy I'm going to be watching is P. Will, because it's the guy that, listen, no matter what, he's the guy that got paid this offseason. He's the guy you have the most questions on this offseason because, okay, what are you going to be during the season? You got the bag. You got your version of the bag. It's still a nice chunk of change. Are you literally just Otto Porter Jr.? Or are you something that can eventually become more than that?
Yeah, great point there. We'll see. Patrick Williams, Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips, these are the guys that I'm really looking to see what they bring training camp, preseason, to see how they extend their game, and I guess we'll see. But yeah, next up, Stacey King talking about Lonzo Ball potentially starting. We're going to get into that right after this.
Got it that time.
I'm never going to get used to that. So on Stacey King's podcast, Give Me the Hot Sauce, Pat the Designer, Stacey King, I wish we could play the clip, but we can't, went into talking about that he could see Lonzo Ball starting if he's fully healthy. And he went on to talk about how he looked in the videos that he's released and working out and things like that. Who wants to tell him?
I mean, listen, first things first. I respect Stacey King's basketball acumen. I think that he's a very smart basketball mind. I think that he is one of the few people who has literally said, let Vooch do what he said he wants to do, and that's go out there and play center in the post. I know that that's a long forgotten thought, but it works almost every time. And so I agree with Stacey King for things like that. But as far as Lonzo Ball starting to do what? Pack his stuff to get up out of here? Starting to get towels.
You know, he's not the only one that says that, though. And I don't get, like, any... We've talked about it. He's not going to play back-to-backs. He's going to be on a minutes restriction. He's been out of basketball for almost 3 years. He's not going to come back and start right away. He's not going to. If he comes back, if he's the starter on day one, to me, that then goes back to, okay, you shouldn't have made the Josh Giddey trade. It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Like, I think here's my thing with Lonzo. And I'm not mad at what Lonzo Ball could be with the defensive numbers. But outside of the defensive numbers, which are very important, Lonzo Ball's numbers as a starter are 12, 6, and 5.
That's what I'm saying. Josh
Giddey's numbers as a starters are 16, 8, and 6.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, even the season where everybody wants to kill Josh Giddey, his numbers were still better than Lonzo Ball's numbers.
And this is not just starting with the Chicago Bulls. This is 239 starts in his career. Like, there's no comparison to what Lonzo Ball does offensively that Josh Giddey can do.
Offensively, frame that we are talking offensively. You keyboard warriors before you get to talking. We're specifically talking about offense.
Defensively, Lonzo Ball's a leaps and bounds better defender, probably on a knee and a half than Josh Giddey will ever be.
Exactly.
But that's not what we're looking for in this modern NBA. You're looking for offense. You're looking for guys that can push the tempo. You're looking for guys that can be competent defensively. And yes, defense does still matter, but it doesn't matter as much if you can only go out there and put up 108 points.
Yeah.
Because that means you have to stop some of the best scorers of all time from putting up 109 points. And you know how many teams do that in the NBA? I want to say 2. I think the Boston Celtics were up there with a defensive rating of they were 110. So not even 2. They were the best defense in the NBA last year.
Yep.
So it's about putting up points. It's about being able to score. This is an offensive league. There are elements of defense that you need, but it's more timely defense now. And yeah, it is right. If you want to be timely about it, do what Boston does. Stifle guys in the first quarter. That's not the same Lonzo Ball anymore.
Yeah. And like I said, say this. I hope that Lonzo can return and be effective for the Bulls this season. I would love that to happen, but I think we got to temper those expectations. Like, it'd be different if we're talking about Lonzo. This was the first year after his injury. Like, we're talking about 3 years by the time he takes the court again of him basically being out of basketball. I think it'd be 2 years, 9 months. Like, that's difficult for anybody to return from and come back at a high level right away. He's gonna ramp up. Like, it just is what it is.
There's too many questions with Lonzo right now, and I think the biggest problem is to say that he's a starter, to say that he's going to just come back and start is you trying to play the politics game of it.
Yeah.
And there's no politics involved when you miss 3 years. There just isn't. You don't have a dog in the race at 3 years.
Yeah, agree. 100% agree.
So there's no scenario here to me where Lonzo Ball comes back and he is the starter over Josh Giddey. But hey, I'm not. This is not even a slant at Stacey King. It's there's no shade at Stacey King. I understand, right? Like you said, there's a lot of people that are saying this, but I don't know how you take a chance. And here's the other thing too: how do you take a chance on a guy who you can't count on to be on the floor? How do you make a guy a starter who you can't count on to be on the floor? How do you build an offense around a guy who you can't count on to be on the floor?
Especially when you don't have to. It'd be different if the Bulls had no other options. He was the best point guard option that we had, but we literally have someone that, by the definition of point guard in that role, exceeds at everything you need from that role, outside of defense for sure. Like we're having a conversation per the offensive side of the ball. Like it just doesn't make any sense at this point right now. It just doesn't.
Not to me. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. I swear, Billy Donovan does that, dog.
No. You know what? Billy Donovan's gonna do something crazy where it's gonna be like Giddey, Lazo, Kobe, and Zach LaVine at the 4 with Vooch out there.
No cap. I'm not mad at that. Depending on how Zoe is playing, I'm not mad at that because Zoe is shooting the 3 ball at a nice clip. You get a little defense in it. Like, that almost makes sense. You know what doesn't make sense? Hey, Josh, you got 18 minutes a game, even though we know you didn't want to start or you didn't want to sit on the bench in OKC. That's why you were
another whole aspect of this. Part of the reason is that he didn't want to come off the bench. You think now he's going to – come on, man. What are we talking about?
I think that Stacey still lives in the world, and it's his world, so it makes sense. It's the world that he comes from, I should say, where if your head coach made a decision, you didn't get to question it. And I don't think that the NBA is in that world anymore.
Yeah, definitely not. Not in this player empowerment movement, that's for damn sure.
But so what do we know? We never played for 3 NBA championships.
JV.
But, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do, man. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat The Designer. See Red Nation stand up.
You guys can follow me at CEO Haize. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube. For Pat The Designer, I'm Haize. It's been Locked On Bulls, y'all. We up out here. Peace.
Peace.